record this computer. And this is definitely part of the longer conversation of the roadmap of when we will release our prog code as a 501c4 entity. There's a lot of issues in terms of like, what does it mean to be a 501c4? How do we, like, the nature by itself of being non-partisan is by design, as we really cannot dictate how the network is. So prog code as it is, by design, or it is imposed on it that it is non-partisan. And I guess these are the conversations we have to have further on. Shit, I can't find it. There, org structure. Discussions on org structure. And I guess I would like to start with Stephen. as you always do, kick us off and set the bounds.
Sorry,
there you go.
My view always goes to full screen, and then I can't access my my mute control. Rappy, what would you like me to start off talking about?
So what are your, with regards to the org structure and funding framework, how do you see this conversation to be held in terms of a public discourse?
Well, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, there has been a lot of public comment. I should say a lot of community comment. There have been a lot of input from people, questions, concerns, things people think they would like to see the community do. And all of that, that really began back in November, when we first opened up the legal channel and asked the question, if prog code is going to organize, how should it organize? And we started from a point of, rather than trying to impose a structure on it, we asked the community for input as to what they would like to see prog code be able to do. We began with just a large list, and then asked for prioritization of it, which the community did. I mean, it wasn't there wasn't a lot of input, but the people who appeared to be most concerned about it did in fact participate. And we basically came up with priorities. And the reason that we did that is that no one structure can accommodate everything that people wanted to do. One of the most important things, although not necessarily the top item, but one of the most important things was the ability to do fundraising, because it seemed to be pretty universally felt that nobody wanted to see prog code out selling things, or going into business from a standpoint of trying to be profitable. And so that immediately put us in the realm of having to be in some type of tax-exempt category. And each of the tax-exempt categories has restrictions as to what kinds of things can be done. And again, through the process of interacting with people in the community and the volunteer staff, we narrowed our choices down to a couple of different forms, and the decision was made to be a 501c4, which is a social welfare organization. And as you pointed out, Rappy, there are limitations on the types of partisan activities into which prog code may participate. And I can go over those if anybody wants, but I think we've done this enough. There are probably plenty of videos out there where it's been discussed, but I'm always happy.
We can make a mashup, actually.
What?
We can have a mashup of you saying those.
Right, yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, and we can do it too. You can't touch this too. We can have there's the music behind it. Anyway, so once 501c4 was decided on, we then started working on some of the issues concerning what existing activities in Prague Code could create some concerns, and but more importantly, the solutions to that. And I think in just about every case, we've been able to address some means by which there can be collaboration with all of the existing Prague Code community, as well as the network partners. But most recently, we have discussed the fact that notice is important, not only for the community, but for those of us in the staff, volunteer staff, who have to interact with them, so that we can know what those rules are that Prague Code has to follow. And so currently there are a couple of different issues that have been posted in GitHub, and at least two of them relate to the guidelines and are having to modify the guidelines so that members have notice when they seek to join what is expected of them, which is not a lot, but that there are certain things that have to be done in order to preserve the community as a tax-exempt organization. So, I mean, I'll leave it there. Just from an introductory standpoint, I think those are the basic things that anybody who listens to the rest of this discussion needs to know. And again, I'm always happy to provide more detail.
Okay, and I think this conversation really would lead up to the whole acceptance or community acceptance, community buy-in of how we move forward, right? And we want this process to be as easy, as smooth as possible, with as much buy-in and less friction. And this is going to be a multi-pronged thing, wherein once we get there, once we are at the next phase, we are going to change or add on to our operational standpoint, our onboarding, messaging, partnerships, messaging, or all of these facets would have to converge in such a way that it is following the 501c4 status. We have had a huge meeting with a lot of the application developers, application leaders on where they stand. I think, and we showed them the model or where we are at the moment, of what types of applications we can provide support at, who are eligible for becoming a Prague Code partner, what does this mean to folks who are an LLC. So I think these are all very mindful activities and actions that we are going to take on. So thank you, Stephen. I want to hear more about Pamela and your part, because you're essentially the champion of the community standpoint and how we should provide that context. From your point of view, how should we move forward with this? What should we think? Like, how should we proceed as a community or as a conversation progresses?
I think from a community standpoint, some of the items that Stephen addressed are very important. The Git issues regarding solidifying the necessary language in the guidelines would be helpful for cutting back the need to police conversations in the Slack. It would also be a helpful guideline for onboarders to follow, so that when we meet new teams or new members who have these great ideas that they want to bring on board, fortunately, Stephen is a lawyer and an onboarder, but not the rest of us have that skill. So I need and the other onboarders need some kind of guidelines to go by as well. And we've also discussed making part of some front-facing, either in the guidelines or in the toolkit. I'm not sure the best means of doing it, but having some front-facing flow chart which shows what we can and cannot do. I mean, my understanding is we can do something for every organization that comes into the door, and that's always been our hope and the place we've been coming from as a position of service to orgs and projects in whatever way we could do that. So I don't think of those things as limiting us, or rather I think of them more as enabling us to do the best that we can, the most that we can, to the extent that we're able.
Thank you. I wanted to hear more about, like, Ellen, if you're still here, if you could talk more about your perspective in the partnerships, and then in partnerships, and then in what do you call this? The funding framework, as you have checked it out as well. Oh, Ellen, are you?
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, I'm here, and I'm sitting on the street, and it's beautiful. And yes, so I just want to clarify, because I apologize for specifically around the documents that we're considering, or the frameworks that we're considering, or I just want to.
I guess I wanted to shift on your point of view in the funding framework, because I feel like your unit is very valid, and I would love to get a better sense of those critiques, and like from a
Okay.
view, in a strategic partner's point of view, like how do you see this conversation moving forward?
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of the funding framework, I mean, the things that I had poked out a little bit were just places where I thought, well, one thing, obviously, like, do we need, as we move into more robust 501c4 and the kinds of things that we're going to do with money and so forth, like, it didn't seem like there was a line for an accounting, and I thought that you might need more help. And so basically what I just poked at places where there were things that maybe were softer or might require more thought or development or might be missing, and wanted to understand a little better what was driving either a number that I wasn't sure about, or where I didn't think a number, I thought maybe you needed to include something. And in a similar way, like the legal thing, I think is the other one that I commented on. I don't have it in front of me right now. So, and that was just a matter of, is there some baseline amount of stuff you're gonna have to do every year? And that may just be covered because we have the wonderful season, but it may not be. So, so those are the kinds of things I was commenting on in the funding framework, because everything else seems pretty clear, or other people's questions have been answering it. I'm not 100% sure how to address the question about from partnerships and how to proceed.
Okay.
At this moment, but that just might be because I'm not quite grasping the question.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to check in, like, how you perceive the org structure or the funding framework in relation to partners, or as you have been doing as an ambassador to other organizations.
Right. Okay. So actually, one thing I should say, I did not get a chance to really take a look at the org structure before this meeting in the same level as the funding, because it's been kind of good. So I will do that. And I will also say that I haven't had a chance to think about it from that angle. So let me do that. I apologize for not having that today.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And let's move on to Devin, as you may have a lot of perspective as well from an application leader point of view, and also with Matt, as you have been doing so much impact in the movement at large, and also in the community. And like, the reason why we're here is essentially you guys. So, and hear more from your end.
Well, thanks so much for having these meetings and making it so easy to kind of see what's going on, in a transparent way. I'm really just here to stay connected to the community and to see if I can help with anything, and just to kind of, see what's happening. And so far, I really like what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. It's, nothing, no alarm bells are going off, no red flags are going up. It's all, it seems like it's a very logical evolution for ProgCode to become a nonprofit and to address all these issues as they arise. I feel like I'm still a newcomer to the community, and so I'm definitely still kind of in a listening sort of stance, trying to understand, like, what the motion, what the trajectory is, what the direction is, and then trying to figure out how I can contribute to that direction, because I do like the direction that I see. So beyond that, I don't have anything to contribute. I do have some questions, maybe a bit later in the discussion, sort of pragmatic questions about how different types of projects will live in ProgCode as this transition takes place. For example, if you had a for-profit or a super PAC, for example, that wanted to have still some connection to ProgCode, what kinds of what kinds of communication protocol would we have in terms of making sure that we're stepping on all the right toes? But other than that, I'm just happy that I like what I'm hearing.
Oh no. Okay, so it's good that he's not hearing any alarm bells. So our next topic would be George Soros's $5 billion donation to ProgCode. I'm so sorry, Devin. You froze. Maybe Matt Borg, give us, if you could as well, from your perspective, how do you see this? We'll get back to Devin in a bit. From your perspective, what do you want to hear, or how do you see this discussion progress in relation to your project, which has been doing so much amazing things? My God, I can't even imagine how much impact you've been doing right now.
Thanks, Rapi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't get a chance to go read through all the documents because I've been a little busy, and I just wanted to kind of pop into this discussion and see, just kind of hear the discussion and see if I can pick up anything about the current state and what's going on. I think, based on the last meeting that I was able to attend, it sounded like the direction was moving in a good direction, going to the 501 nonprofit organization. I'm afraid I don't have too much to ask. I'm kind of I'm sort of here in an exploratory kind of position, just trying to soak up some information from the people who are, really, who are leading this, change in this progression of the network. So, but so far, I kind of trust you guys to make really great decisions. The legal stuff is not really, it's not really my thing. And so far, the support that I've gotten from the network and the connections that I've been able to make and things I feel like we've been able to do collectively have been really positive and really great. So I'm kind of along for this, whatever. If you guys say that this is that this structure and this funding framework that I'm going to be reading up on tonight, if you feel like that's the way to go, I feel like I support you guys, and it's probably the right way to go. So I'm kind of here to hear what it all is.
Thank you.
And,
yeah, but please call us out whenever you feel like it. And I'll explain the logic or philosophy we put in the funding framework as well.
Cool.
which really puts in the onus to the network, and please keep us accountable too. Thank you, Matt.
Cool.
And finally, could you talk, Joe?
Sure.
Okay.
I can always talk.
No, I thought you were in someone was talking. But yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on just the general strategy of it, community
Sure.
operations, onboarding.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not on a bus right now, so this works out, and that's awesome, Matt. I love the the participation like that. It's excellent to have you, and always great, as Rafi said, to get any feedback or pull us back on any nonsense. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. I have not seen or stayed up to date on the latest and latest bylaws, but I think just the overall discussion and conversation and where we've been kind of generally headed toward is, I feel like, a really, really good place. I think it's being very aware of and cognizant of a lot of the different common pitfalls that organizations can see, and it's being very thoughtful about how we approach those and enabling a scalable, non-hierarchical organization, but one where people can contribute and work effectively toward giant projects. Obviously not quite there yet, but I think we're really going in a good direction. I think the structure really lays out a really solid, cohesive vision for Prague Code in general of how it actually works. And I think as we continue to evolve, as things are inevitably going to pick up in the next couple of months, I think people are really going to be able to see and understand the structure when they're impacted directly by it. So we're really doing it, like really focusing on building the foundation for Prague Code right now. I think some interesting things for us to think about are how can we do things differently? What do we actually need and are required to do versus how can we do things in the Prague Code kind of way? And so I think that'll give us a good opportunity to approach budgeting in whatever way, whether it's annual or some other sort of accounting method. But being able to take a unique approach to how we go about it. Yeah, that's how.
Cool. And thank you for that. What I wanted to do next, maybe. So these are all in consideration, and definitely something that we have talked about in ad nauseum. And one thing that I think would be really, if anyone could post notes, by the way, or write notes for me, that would be awesome. One thing that maybe we could start off is, because we have already talked about the org structure, let's move from here, from what's happening now and back. So how I think it would be best for us to discuss things is, first we discuss about the funding framework itself, like what the logic of it, your thoughts on it, and as we go along, I would love to get your comments on it as we go through it one by one. And also, first, let's discuss for the funding framework, let's discuss the types of funding, or the types of expenses we have. So we have right now two main types of budgets, right? The required budget and discretionary expenses. So those are the two things that we will be discussing as well, if we still have time within the 30 minutes. So please again, stack if you want to talk or add comment, see if you want to comment. And Ellen, I will call on you every time I end a section, so that I'll check if you have any comments as well. So I'll proceed now to opening the funding framework. And just a very quick background on the funding framework. One thing that really got to me as we read this, as we go through this, was how one of the main inspiration was how, and I've told Stephen and everyone already, like Stephen did already. One of the main inspiration for this funding framework is how Chinatowns persist in communities. As you know, like China, houses or Chinatowns usually are the ones who tend to persist longer than the communities they are in. They don't get pushed out by prices, or they don't get bought out by real estate agents, because what? They don't gentrify. There you go. Thanks, Benny. Because one thing that they do is that most of these houses in Chinatowns are owned by at most 20 to 30 people. And in order for them to buy out that house, they would have to go through and get the buy-in of all those 30 people. So the reason why we are putting the funding framework into a proposal and into a policy is so that we are kept accountable, and we are kept honest by this. Because a lot of another reason is that for the discretionary budget, discretionary expenses, there were a lot of processes right now wherein it's a participatory form of budgeting. So people would vote on the things they want budgeted on in cities, and that's very much an empowering process for the community that the city is providing service to. So those are the philosophies, or the things that we are trying to imbibe into our community, and that's the reason why we have this. So the initial process for all of this follows the same process we have in decision making, which is we need to get the consent of the operations team, the vanguards of the community. And once the consent is a full consent. It's a consent by commission, and it has to be voted on, and there is a deadline for that vote. Usually it takes 1 week. It starts with a conversation and ends with a decision. So these are all provided in our GitHub repository and also recorded. And Joe has created an amazing process for it. Joe has provided a documentation on how to go about the decision-making process. Is it what kind of decision it is? Is it a standard change, or is it something that we have to decide on as a group? After that, the community then votes. If it is consented on, a budget is voted on by the community, and it has to pass a supermajority of the community. So, and it has to be at least solicited by, it has to be voted on by the community. So this is a huge decision, and it will, the plan is hopefully that we get to kick off the voting for the budget by April 20, which is the State of the Network address. During that time, the community will vote on a lot of things. One is, first is the blessing for the budget framework, funding framework, and then second is the org structure, to ratify it and to vote for the leaders in the community for that. So right now we are interim board for leaders, but once we do the actual network vote, it then provides us with the whole officiality of who are the leaders in the community. So we're not still set, but it's something that we are working towards. So before I continue, any questions on that or comments before we proceed with? Okay, so let's first talk about the required budget. So what the required budget is all the current operational costs that we are incurring. Actually, mostly me, but we are incurring in terms of like how this community is running. There are 3 types of required budget. First is the operational cost, which is the usual thing that we are working on right now. The Zoom conference down to the web assets, right? We also need a PO box for mailing, domain name for all the domain names we're using right now, and Calendly, and all the things that the operations team is using in order for us to function very well. Joe.
And it's probably covered in here, and I probably just forget it, but Is there a way that we're also accounting for potential operational growth? Like, say we decide we need some additional or different services that incur an additional cost, or we're adding more people to this than we thought we would. Is that just is that a function of the regular change process, or how are you thinking about that?
So right now the budget is focused on right now we have 5 or 6 active volunteer staffers, right? This project is projected to serve 15 volunteer staffers. So we are projecting in a year like it will increase by 7. But let me know if that's the thing that you're thinking of, or if we're looking at more solutions for this too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's probably a good projection. I guess it's just in general, like, just how are we thinking about things? Like, if we decide, like, if we get a ton of interest and a bunch of support, and we decide we need 150 volunteer staffers.
Okay. To be honest, that's something that I have not considered. But if we were to scale up so fast, oh God, I'm scared now. I'm triggered. No, it is. I'm like
Make that into a Twitter.
But like, if we were to reach 150, I can't imagine it. I'm sorry. But maybe we should start doing it. This follows the same change process, I think like the decision-making process is always key to this. So it's always consent and community vote of confidence. So any change, I think it's good to add this as well, right? Any change in required budget is subjected to consent and community vote, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because for the discretionary one, we have set up a system in place already where it's a quarterly thing. So, okay, thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
And for the basic project support, so this one is our what we're doing right now, and it's a good thing that Matt is here as well. What I would love to do before we launch, it would be for us to have 4 or 5 ProgCode partners already that has been consented on and voted on by the community. So for Matt and Devin, the ProgCode partner is as a part of the service condition. So one of the necessary steps for us to provide service is that it has a buy-in of the community and the operations staff, so that one could be eligible for it. Because there may be a lot of aspects has to be covered. Like, is it a nonprofit? Can we support it first? Is it an open source or low cost tool? Is a benefactor a non-entity or a nonprofit? Or is there an inherent maximum participation? Does it push for it, or does it not violate progressive values? And all the other factors that has to be involved in order for us to support projects. This is definitely key because when we were talking about partnerships, one of the things that was brought up is perception cost. I think Devin was really beautifully stated that there's a perception cost we have to incur and the risk as well. And having that, having the buy-in of the community and taking that risk and also the opportunity around it provides us with much strengthening of the decision and the community at large. So the ProgCode partnerships follows the same process as the decision making, which is if it has not gone through the consent process, you're a partner, right? But you're not a ProgCode partner. So once there's this bridge that we have to cross in order for one to be a recipient of this. I think the Phone Your Rep is a special case because we really wanted to support it, and everyone had the buy-in over it, and the decision-making process was not yet there. So I think we could do something retroactively around it because, again, Phone Your Rep is such an amazing app, and we love supporting it too. So, Ellen. Please stack. Oh, you stacked.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm in mute. I have to be two places at once. I can see you and I can talk. This may be digging deep in, but I just have to I realized I do have a question about partners, and based on particularly on what we're talking about right now, that essentially, do people that we support, beneficiaries rather, have to be legal entities themselves? There's no, you can do.
Oh, you're in phone.
This is probably something that you thought.
So
This is probably something that people have already thought about. Yeah.
Yeah, we have discussed it, and there is a matrix that we have presented before. So non-legal entities, non-entities, and non-profits are the ones who really are the maximum benefactors. So those entities are the ones who are going to receive much of the services we are offering and we are allotting budget to. And it really falls in line on what we're trying to do, where we are removing the influence of money in politics and providing that space for these entities to thrive. Another strategy that we are working on is that since we are a C4 and we could provide fiscal sponsorship to other nonprofits, like we can speed up or we can incentivize the creation of nonprofits or C4s within our partnership system so that they don't have to go through the process of doing an LLC, which is something that is the fastest and easiest way to go about it. So having that kind of structure of support or legal entity is just a value add to these projects too. But definitely,
Sorry. To clarify one of my questions, I apologize. So the other, I guess, it's actually the reverse that I'm going to ask about, which is we can accept services. This had come up for me in another not-for-profit situation that I was in, and I don't know why we might be misremembering this, but we could not accept services or work with people who were not themselves some form of entity. Well, they couldn't just be individuals. Is there any restriction on that in this situation? Or, in other words, sorry.
Do you mind taking that, Stephen, if you're still here? Stephen's not here.
Okay, I'll ask him later.
Okay. But again, I think Stephen has mentioned that we can work with or provide benefits to people who don't have a legal structure, a legal entity, as long as they're not conducting business or any exchange of not like for-profit and enterprising or something like that. But yeah, thanks, Ellen. I'll also ask Stephen more about that too. And aside from operational cost, we have basic project support, which opens up this space for the Heroku service and Amazon Web Services. And this presupposes the fact that we need a space for folks to build their application and push it somewhere. And having that kind of playground or like a base of a sandbox or even a place to deploy things would provide them with capacity in terms of like having full ownership of their application, but at the same time occupy a space in these services. So what this is about is essentially ProgCode does not still own any of these applications, but they are providing space for them to thrive. So there you go. Another is the Calendly Partner Hub ProgCode account, which we will give all the other application partners because one of the things that they are having a lot of stress points is just having a common place to meet and having that set time for them to find find a meeting place online. And that is in tandem with the Zoom video conference, since they're both they're ways for us to set scheduling for these video conference, and something that we can definitely push to the community and provide that service for. Another is the strategic communication support. I think right now for spring, we are really focusing now on external communications. So definitely something that we will be pushing forward as we move along. I've been testing out Action Sprout, and it's been really great to use for a nonprofit point of view. Finally, I think we will stop the call after the required budget, and we will just continue this. This is a very long series as we progress. But for the evangelism support, I really wanted to get your thoughts about this too. If this should go into the discretionary budget, or is it's because right now this is the one that is getting a lot, like the biggest expenses for me personally, and for who's this, for Jacob, or for those who are evangelizing. And we're lucky if our hosts are the ones spending like funding it, but we have to be open to these ideas of when we go to engagements and spread the word of open source technologies in politics. This is really important because people don't see it that way yet. And the language of open source technologies in politics has died down after the Obama campaign with Drupal, but now I think we really need to amplify it further. Also, this really drives a lot of memberships into our corner. So the more we evangelize, the healthier the community is, because once we stop growing, and it is slowing down, to be honest. The membership right now, maybe there's a lull, or like it's not really in demand at the moment since people are normalizing, but it is slowing down. And the more the need to evangelize really has, peaked at the moment. So and these are all the biggest issues right now. We need to call public engagement fund, so we need to support them in terms of flights, food allowance, and lodging. We are projecting 20 engagements per year, but I think this is still small. We need also to allot funding for merchandising, which can be an open, a positive cash flow actually, because we can sell shirts, we can sell stickers or whatever. Also, conference fund. This is really important because I think Joe and I discussed yesterday about how can we effectively grow the community and bring that sense of accomplishment to the folks in it. So one of the plans, do you want to talk about it, Joe, so that I can stop talking further?
Sure, I can do that for you. I think it really ultimately goes, well, and first I want to say I definitely think that the evangelism in general should be part of whichever bucket is like the definitely, yes, we're doing this is important, because it is extremely important for what we're doing. I think one key theme that we've sort of really consistently leaned on and have seen like the value of is the connecting in-person engagement, whether that's meetups or conferences or just running into people. I met somebody at a pizza place at 3 a.m. 2 Saturdays ago. Like there's a lot of ways that we can evangelize for what we're doing. But I think in general, the conference fund is it's a really important one. Connecting this online stuff that we're doing to in person, being able to make people, especially people that are big contributors to the community, to project leaders, people that are interested in getting together and connecting, and ProgCode being that funnel where we can take all of this energy, all of these people that are interested in being able to provide resources so that people can take time off and go potentially across the country and connect with one another and build and grow. And then we'll also continually be working on how do we connect this to online to make that seamless and make, because you can drive a lot of impact online through the stuff that you do in person. So in general, I think it's a really important thing, and I think that number will probably have a couple more zeros added to it in the next few years.
Yeah. And this one, for the conference fund, this does not mean that there's only 3 volunteer staffers. Usually it would be just 1 volunteer staffer or 2. And there's a space for an application leader as well. So what we really want to work on here is to provide space for app leaders to amplify their work through these conferences and provide a space for them to network as hard as possible so that their work is amplified and not just what we're doing in ProgCode. One big opportunity is what's upcoming in October, which is a new founders conference, which brings in a lot of founders across the board, and like all the technologists and movement movers are coming in to meet each other and converse on how to go about the next phase of things. So conference fund is definitely something that I think it should be increased as well, so that it could put space on in how we engage with the application leaders too. Finally, there are one-time expenses. We really need to acquire progcode.com for many reasons. One is that if we start driving donations to progcode.org, there's going to be a lot of issues with progcode.com getting a lot of scammers and a lot of like donations. Like we can just simply get that. The thing is that it's right now costing $2,095. It's being bought by this. It's immense. And another is the summer and fall strategy meeting at the People Summit. So what we are aiming to do is to fund application leaders and volunteer staffers to go to the People Summit on June and create a space of, make this our retreat this year and provide that space of collaboration, camaraderie, and because we are going to have a space specifically in the People Summit, wherein we are given a session. I think I don't know yet about the speech, but I'm communicating with that to them at the moment. We have a session wherein we will talk about open source technologies, and there's definitely some quorum or breakout for tech in the in that space. So aside from that, it's going to happen in Chicago, which provides us a way for us to join Chai Hack Night. So this is going to be a 5-day event wherein summer and fall strategy will happen during that space. Because right now, spring is really focused on external communications. And I'm really confident about the fact that we are strong in our communications is strong internally. At the moment, I think I could confidently say that. But we need to improve our external communications, and I think Joe, that's where you shine, and Pamela, because we need to clear how we communicate with folks, because that's when we become effective in amplifying our partners too. One major thing once that's done, I think we're ready to mobilize. And that's what summer and fall is about. It's about mobilization, and that's something to be behold, because that's when open candidates comes in. That's when national voter file becomes really a huge asset in the movement at large, because a lot of these organizations are really looking at it at the moment. And also Maps for Change. I think tonight, Joe, tonight we're going to have a meeting if you could join. I know you know about this, right? But anyway, so that's where we are at. And that's the discretionary, that's the required budget. I have created a breakdown for it too. And right now it's totaling like $75,831 for all of this. this is an annual one. So, and if you want to check this out, I have set variables so you could play around with the values as well. And these are things that we will be fundraising around that. There's another type of budget, which is the discretionary spending, which is a whole new different monster. But that's for another meeting. But for now, anyone has comments or before we end this meeting? Questions, issues? Ellen.
It always takes me a second because my phone always wants me to sign back in again. Hi, I'm gonna put my face on too, so you can see. Hi, it's beautiful. So this is where I'm actually curious about whether we need to add a couple of lines for these very kind of baseline business-centric things as we grow into becoming an organization. And I'm sorry Steve's not on the call too, but it's like for accounting or a little bit of legal in the required budget, because those things are going to happen. Like, they're inevitable that you're going to be doing a lot more work, given that, you know, we're growing and we're going to have all these different monies coming to and from, and that kind of structure. So does that need to be part of the required budget? Because it seems like it's sort of basic to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't know the cost for that yet, so it's not part of it. So I may need to research further of that too. One thing that is necessary is for us to have, I think from what I've been reading, the most important one that we need to have is insurance for legal indemnification issues.
Yes.
These are something that we need to think about and budget on as well. So this is definitely going to be part of it. So we're going to revise this for accounting. Anyone else? What do you think of this so far from what you're hearing, Devin? Devin's gone. Sorry, Matt, what do you think of this so far? And Stephen's back.
It sounds good. Sounds like there's good opportunities to be supported by the community, for the community to engage membership and you know, work on expanding and empowering the network. And I think I would definitely support the one-time expense of the ProgCode.com, as you said. Sounds like, I mean, it all sounds good to me. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Pamela, what do you think about this so far?
I think it's wonderful. I think everything we've heard today is in line with what we've been hearing all along. I think Ellen's suggestion of including accounting software or management is crucial, along with the insurance that Rafi brought up. I think I also agree that evangelism should be part of the mandatory budgets, because and that figure may change from year to year as the need to evangelize changes. I think it's more in the beginning, but it is so integral to what we're doing. It has been so integral to the way the community has been grown and the network has been grown beyond the immediate community. It seems critical to me. And apart from that, I don't think I have much to offer.
Okay, thank you so much. And Joe, finally.
I think this is great. It's really exciting to have like here is what we would do with money if we had money. And I think just the process of how you've been going about it is a really excellent one. Extremely easy for people to provide feedback and get involved, and that's a really good precedent to set. I think it's also an interesting one, considering that we've done this by and large pretty much all as volunteers, and that's like a good thing to know that we can always come back to. We can always come back to volunteering with free tools. So it's that money doesn't make or break us. It's a benefit, definitely, but I think that also frees us up a lot to have a bit more fluidity in how we go about budget planning, and of course making sure that we do have the make or break expenses and know what those are. But by and large, it allows us, I think, to have a lot of freedom and I think do a lot more with money than what a lot of organizations do.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're really mindful about that, as we have seen a lot of UN. Yeah. So anyway, thanks everyone. I would have to end this because there's an upcoming onboarding session. So this has been great, and this is going to be a series of talks. So please be honest, keep us accountable, and I'll post it up soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rafi. Thanks everybody.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.